True crimers, welcome to Break the Case. I'm your host. I'm Jen Coffindaffer. We love to cuss and discuss crime on this channel, and we're going to do that today. This is one of the most egregious cases you will ever hear about. For those of you unfamiliar, Ellen Greenberg, beautiful young woman, engaged to be married, a school teacher in Philadelphia who was, in my opinion, murdered back in January of 2011. She was found by her then fiance, Sam Goldberg, who said he broke into the apartment. There's very little proof of that. And nevertheless, came upon her purportedly, called 911. It took him 2 minutes into the 911 call to mention the fact that she had a knife protruding from her chest. But in any event, it was initially ruled a homicide, then ruled a suicide, and now we are back to not a suicide. This is huge news. You all have possibly heard about it, but we are here. We're honored to be joined by Dr. Greenberg and Sandy Greenberg, the parents of Ellen Greenberg, to discuss what's happened and what the future holds. There we go. Little technical challenge there. Hi, Doctor. Hi, Sandy.
Hi.
Hello there.
Thank you for being with us on this Friday late afternoon. Everyone in the audience, I know everybody on my Twitter page is very excited to hear from you and your impressions about several things. I'm going to start out with Dr. Osborne, who was the original medical examiner for Ellen Greenberg. He ruled a homicide, then closed door meetings, things take place. He says, it's actually a suicide, which he bases on the fact that essentially her fiance said nobody else was in the room. Really, that's what it came down to. What do you think about this new revelation, him reversing himself and saying this was not a suicide?
Well, personally, I wish he wouldn't have gone back and forth, because I know his credibility is going to be challenged because of this. Even though his verification, is that what it's called? Is what he signed? Mm-hmm. His statement is very precise that it's not a suicide. I'm not familiar with why he couldn't fill in that blank and say what it is, but I don't know why he needs a license. He's a licensed physician. He was the medical examiner. He was the only wet fingers person to do an autopsy on my daughter. So I think whatever he says, unfortunately, now is the truth.
Well, let me read for the audience who doesn't know exactly what was said. So he gave a verification, which really is an affidavit, if you will. He says, I'm a resident of the state of Florida. I maintain a medical practice. And then he says where in Pompano Beach. I'm a licensed physician in the field of pathology in Florida. He lists his license number. I was employed as the pathologist at the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office in September 2009 through September of 2014. On January 27th, 2011, I performed an autopsy on Ellen Greenberg, deceased, determined her manner of death to be homicide. I signed the death certificate indicating her manner of death as homicide. I therefore issued an amended death certificate on April 4th, 4 months later, 2011, for Ellen, which changed her manner of death from homicide to suicide. This change was made based on additional evaluation of the case file, additional information provided to me by the Philadelphia Police Department, and a neuropathology consult I secured from Lucy Rourke Adams, MD. Since issuing the amended death certificate, I've become aware of additional information I did not have at the time of issuing the amended death certificate, which may have impacted my opinion. I am now aware the information exists which draws into question, for example, whether Ellen's fiance was witnessed entering the apartment before placing the 911 call on January 26, 2011, whether the door was forced open, whether Ellen's body was moved by someone inside the apartment at or near the time of death, and findings of Lindsay Emery, MD, from her pathological evaluation of Ellen's cervical segment sample. It is my understanding that I am no longer empowered to amend Ellen's death certificate myself because I no longer maintain a Pennsylvania ME license and no longer employed by Philadelphia ME's office, but based on my consideration of the new information brought to my attention after leaving my position as ME, along with the original autopsy finding and information considered while I was actively the ME on the case, it is my professional opinion that Ellen's manner of death should be designated something other than a suicide. And he says he affirms that.
I'm going to show you something very interesting.
Please.
That was a good statement, very powerful, and we appreciate it and everything. But he lied in that statement. He never saw Lucy Rourke. Dr. Rourke, a very eminent pathologist, neuropathologist, I guess, or something, who does these things, these consults. We contacted her, our Mr. Brennan, our investigator. She said she never saw Ellen. So even in this great verification I have here, there's BS in that. The whole thing out of Philadelphia is just plain BS. If I was in Philadelphia, I wouldn't trust anything they say. I mean, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, you bring up a great point. And I spoke to Mr. Brennan about that, and you're exactly right. He said that if she would have reviewed the segment they're referring to, she would have written up a report, and there's no report.
There's no report, there's no bill, and she never got paid. And Miss Dr. Rourke is very meticulous about these things. If I had hired her and I asked her what time it was, she would have billed me for that. So even when they're trying to do something right, they're incompetent. I don't understand. And I'm supposed to sit here and let them say my daughter committed suicide. And I know Dr. Osborne is trying to do the right thing, I hope. I think he is. I really feel that way. But there were lies in that statement you just read to me. And somebody else is going to say, well, Dr. Greenberg said he lied in his statement. How can we trust him? And you know what? He's sort of right. It really takes the value of that statement down a notch in my mind. Because I'm no special person that I could see that. You understand what I'm talking about, right?
You're right. I mean, it stuck out to me like a sore thumb because the bottom line is there's no evidence that she ever saw that. And as I recall, the story is he took a segment, cut it out of Ellen, put it in some sort of jar and walked it over and met her. I mean,
that's what he said in his deposition. He didn't want Dr. Rourke, I guess is an older lady. He didn't want her to walk in the snow. And then he also said that same deposition that he was going to change the medical
death certificate.
The death certificate, and he never did that. And now we got this great verification, which gets him off the hook on a case. And then a normal person, not an ME, not a change in medical, whatever. I'm not a former FBI agent. We can also talk about who the new head of the FBI is, if you'd like. But I mean, it's really ridiculous. I mean, the man is doing a verification, and it has it's not even a sore thumb; it's a cactus. I think a sore thumb is a nice way of saying it.
Well, it's interesting, right? He's trying to mitigate why he changed it from homicide to suicide, and he knows just saying, well, it turns out that Sam didn't enter with any witnesses saying he entered, which initially, I guess, police had told him. So, but that's not enough because really a medical examiner should rely first and foremost on their medical findings.
Right.
Not on whether a door is broken or what a witness says. They should rely on their medical findings. So the way it gets around that is mentioning this famous neuro pathologist who there's no record she ever saw anything. So it is disappointing.
And she's the only one I believe her. She literally hung up on Mr. Brennan, and she had nothing to gain or lose.
They would have proof in the medical examiner's office that she wrote a report and she was paid, and she was not.
In fact, here's a really good one. We went to the medical examiner's office, Sandy and I, my wife, and we spoke to Dr. Galino, and he had said she didn't write a report. She wrote a report on cases before and after Ellen's case.
But not on that day.
But not on that case. I mean, come on. And I'm supposed to take this verification and use it to do whatever I have to do to get my daughter's birth certificate.
Death certificate.
Death certificate changed. Come on.
Well, let me ask you this, because you said something I found interesting. Doctor, you said that you truly think that Dr. Osborne is trying to do the right thing now. I might have to quibble with you on this. I think, but for you all bringing the suit, but for you all having him say, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to get on the stand and literally perjure myself. But for you all pushing him into the corner, there is no way we get this verification, in my opinion, from him. He didn't change his mind over all these years.
That's a good point.
I mean, you have better experience and training than I do. I'm still a lay person, even after 14 years of this garbage. But I was hoping, and I'm trying to think the best of people all the time. But I don't know. I am not happy with the whole thing, not just the verification. I'm not happy with the arrangement with the city of Philadelphia right now. I'm very unhappy about it.
Well, good, because I are not good, but I'm glad you brought that up, because that was the next point I wanted to talk to you about. You'll recall right after this happened, and Sandy, I really appreciate you always keeping me at the pulse of what's going on so I can let our audience know. But I called you all and I was so excited. I thought, oh my gosh, what a turning point. And I'll never forget the conversation, because you all were so upset. I mean, you were physically ill, essentially, or you got sick during this process, probably the emotions involved, because you know that what has happened is it's merely diverted back to the people who made the original conclusions. Is that about right?
Who were also the people in the Attorney General's office that did his quote unquote investigation. I mean, the whole thing stinks. It even stinks now. And they don't, I don't think these people know what the truth is, or what the word truth means or something.
Not that they don't know what the truth is in this case, but they don't seem at all interested in trying to get there. I was wondering, is there anything you all can do? And just so the audience understands what we're trying to say is this great information came out, but what's been told is to just circle back with the initial authorities that made these conclusions that there's not probable cause. Actually, they said beyond a reasonable doubt evidence, which it shouldn't be. That's up to a jury. That should never be up to a prosecutor. That should be up to a jury. But they're saying that they couldn't go forward with the case because there was no proof there was any crime that had been committed. And now what Dr. Greenberg and Sandy are saying is it's just been thrown back to their discretion again, and you fear the same outcome. Is that right?
I don't understand. We did sign the agreement. I don't understand what I signed. I haven't seen a copy of what I signed. I haven't seen anything that was supposed to come out of what I signed. Right now, I have a call into an email into my attorney to talk about this, because I feel it's BS. I feel we're playing the same game we played for 14 and a half years or 15 years with these people. I mean, Josh Shapiro, who's the governor, said that when he had the case, it was bumped up to him because of certain things. He found other evidence that Ellen was a suicide victim. I've never seen it.
He didn't have Ellen's. His office claimed they cloned Ellen's hard drive, which was in 2018. But
15.
back in 2015, the computers were locked up, and they did not have her computer, so they didn't have her computer to clone a hard drive.
And Mr. DeAndrea, who investigated the case when he was working for the DA, he
Right.
said that the evidence that Ellen looked at her for suicide, I think, came out years later. Now, the FBI reviewed Ellen's computers. They were given the computers by the authorities, which is the correct thing to do, and they found nothing, not a thing. And then later on, they come out with this. It's ridiculous. I'm playing the same game right now that I've been playing for 15 years. That's the way I look at it.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Shapiro, because this was something I wanted to ask you all about. For those of you who don't know, Brian Inton threw a curveball, let's call it, at Shapiro when he was speaking completely unrelated topic, and asked about the Greenberg case. And he really caught Josh Shapiro in a little bit of a conundrum. And I believe Josh Shapiro really painted himself even more in a corner, basically stating, as you just mentioned, Dr. Greenberg, that he investigated the case and he found even more information that Ellen had taken her life. And to your point, what could that have been? Further, he said that essentially he wanted to give you all the conclusion you wanted, but the evidence wasn't there. What do you have to say to Josh Shapiro? I want to hear it.
What evidence Josh Shapiro has.
Well, we'd like to know what he has.
And I think he owes that to the public.
I think he should present it to the public, not just us. If the only thing he has is the written opinion of the person they hired to be their expert witness, Albert or something, I think his name is, that's nothing. So I don't think he has anything.
If he has evidence, why is he withholding it?
We've never seen any
That
evidence.
office was approached by Tom Brennan, by myself and Josh individually, requesting meeting with him, and no one from the Attorney General's office reached out to Sandy and Josh Greenberg.
My most vivid memory of his response was running away from the press when they asked the question. And I feel about
he wanted to be interviewed. I mean, that's the only way Brian Inton was able to get an interview, was really to surprise attack.
Yeah. I feel bad. I don't want to hurt anybody, but my daughter was murdered. And these people are not showing any compassion, feeling, or anything for my daughter. In fact, during this negotiation, they didn't say my daughter didn't commit suicide. They said if they change the death certificate, they're going to have lawsuits. I couldn't care less.
The Philadelphia Solicitor's Office.
That's what they said. I can't believe they said that.
Had the colossal nerve to say that to us.
And we may be out of, we're not lawyers, so we're not sure what we're doing here. We're lay people. So I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say what we just said. But I'll tell you, that's the truth.
Mm-hmm. That's awful. So at this point, you don't even know if the death certificate is going to be changed.
Correct.
I don't know who. Wait.
February 3rd was the verification letter. Today is February 21st.
Nothing. And it was supposed to be done expediently. I have no confidence in anything I will see. And I don't know when I'm going to see it. And I don't know even who's going to see it. If Philadelphia's medical examiner is going to review the case file, if the one in where's the other guy?
Chester
County. Yeah, the Chester County ME that he hired has like a night course in how to be an ME. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That's my understanding. Is it's going back to Chester County for review. Is that not your understanding?
I don't know what my understanding. I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm raising my voice. I apologize. I don't know who's going to review it. Thank you, Sandra. I don't know who. My wife and I spent a lot of money to get the truth by experts.
We shouldn't have had to go to this degree of searching for evidence when the Philadelphia police have the video surveillance cameras. They have Melissa Ware's tape that they profess that they can't find, or they don't know where it is anymore.
Talk to us about that tape.
What?
Talk to us about that tape.
She taped the apartment before the cleanup crew came. You know, I forget what the name of it was.
Crime scene cleanup.
And they're supposed to take a tape too of the scene before they clean up, and they don't have a tape either.
I mean, isn't it convenient that all these things are missing?
All the usual and customary are not there. They had a meeting to discuss the death certificate. No record. They had people who had already
Lindsay Emery's
report.
No, told not to give.
I mean, the judge excused her from the case. I don't think that was right. I think she had a moral, ethical, and professional responsibility to write a report, especially since her findings were that the wounds were post-mortem. That's a very, very, very significant part of a case like this. It's not like, oh, she had brown hair.
Yeah, it was significant. And just in case you don't know in the audience here, that scene of this crime was cleaned by professional expert hazmat crime cleanup company the day after the incident. Just absolutely horrible. Law enforcement signed off on this.
Apartment.
Yeah, her apartment. It just unfathomable. Before any law enforcement crime scene crew could come out and conduct an appropriate crime scene investigation. But there was footage taken, and that's what Dr. Greenberg and Sandy are referring to. The footage that was taken, video and so on, is gone.
and the cases, we've had other problems where we couldn't get things and things popped up eventually. We only got 2 hours of tape of the building of the people who were there that day. A lot happened more than just 2 hours worth of stuff.
The building marketed itself on security, cameras. Well, where is all that?
It's so important. Yeah, I totally agree. I want to ask you a question about the relationship, if one exists, between the judge who is the uncle of Sam, the fiance, and Shapiro. I've seen pictures of them together. I believe they went to high school together. What is your understanding of that relationship?
They know each other. That's all we know. I can't really say anything else to that. How intimate or anything else, I really don't know. But we do know they know each other.
And I mean, on its face, it just looks bad. It looks bad considering all these facts, right? 20 stab wounds, ruled self-inflicted, if you will. Security tape lost, crime scene ordered, fixed up, and the uncle, again, a judge, who
Ellen's electronics
that's what I was just going to say, took Ellen's electronics out of there the night. Any judge, any lawyer, he's an attorney, knows not to do that.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
You have more experience than we do. You were an FBI crime scene investigator. Am I saying the right thing?
No, I was a special agent with the FBI investigating cases. And in terms of crime scene, we conducted our own crime scene investigation before the onset of the ambulance response team.
At the computer-generated 20 stab wounds.
Mm-hmm.
How many of those were a death? How many of those?
I couldn't comment on that without seeing the particular details of the autopsy report in terms of the depth of each of those. Is that what you're asking? The depth?
Yes.
I can't tell. I mean, I don't know the answer. I know some are more superficial than others.
I thought you reviewed the material.
Oh, I did. Some are more superficial, but if you're asking me the exact depth,
no, I'm not.
Precise person. I don't know the exact depth. I didn't memorize details.
When you think of those wounds, how many do you think were kill wounds?
Oh, in my opinion, as memory serves, without it in front of me, I'm going to say 2 to 3.
Thank you. Would those 2 to 3 be the wound to the back of the neck into her spine, and the one in her heart?
Yep, those are the 3.
And didn't somebody, an expert for the police, for the medical examiner, say that at least one of them was post-mortem?
Yes, absolutely.
And the other one had Alan's left hand on it, wrapped around a clean white towel?
A clean white towel with no blood.
That was never fingerprinted, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
Okay. Now you know why I just said what I said last time, right?
Yeah, I definitely see your point, and I know there's another very famous and well-regarded ME that has brought that concern up as well, and that is, were the initial wounds that killed her, were there other wounds made by the perpetrator to make it appear minor in nature so that one could possibly come to the conclusion of self-infliction? I would just say they did a very poor job at having anybody believe anything like that. But I certainly think it can't be out of the realm of possibility that could have been done.
Okay.
Let me ask a question. I noticed that, and I posted this actually, that there could have been 2 knives used. And let me see, that's what I've been trying to tell everybody. It was on the initial ME report that some wounds were serrated. You can't have a straight edge and a serrated wound come from the same knife. That's just not going to happen. Right. And who commits suicide and changes knives in the middle of their attack?
I guess somebody who's obsessive compulsive. I'm sorry.
No. I mean,
we got to
been through so much.
It's such a terrible tragedy. If I don't laugh, I'll never get through it.
Yeah. I always say that about crime to everyone. I post a lot of levity, right? I'll just post something funny and some people are offended. Why are you doing that? And if you working these kinds of cases and being involved in all these tragedies for years, and you guys have been at the heart of that with the person you loved the most, your only daughter, your only child, it's got to be I just can't imagine. And the fight that you guys continue to show. Talk to us about what is going to happen and where we're at with the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania and your standing.
I think it was canceled, wasn't it? Part of the agreement.
Is that right?
I left a message from my attorney not to cancel it because it's the only thing I had over the police over Philadelphia to have some pressure on them. So I don't know if it was canceled or not. We don't know anything since that day. We're back to where we were at the beginning of this whole thing. No one talks to us.
So the case before the Supreme Court, you believe might have been canceled as a part of the settlement agreement?
I believe it was supposed to be, yes.
Oh, I'm just finding out about that, obviously. That is concerning because I feel like that was your leverage. Exactly what you just said. This was your leverage to truly get justice, with the Supreme Court being forced to make a decision. You guys were the parents who always should have had standing. So you're right, Dr. Greenberg. We're literally back at square one in 2011.
Well,
No, 2025.
No, it's like we've just
I'm going to
gone
tell
back.
you. Okay, Jennifer, I'm going to tell you a little secret.
Yeah.
Not over.
Good.
I haven't given up.
No. You haven't given up. Those of us in social media and mainstream media, those on this platform, no one is giving up on this. And we're going to keep shining the light on this ridiculous. I can't even believe everything that's happened in this case. I can't believe it. And I'm so glad you guys have kept fighting. You're truly heroes in all of this. And I'm so glad you still have all that energy to keep fighting.
I hope so. We're going to have a conversation with our attorneys in the near future. We'll see what's up. I feel that the other side has not lived up to the agreement. As I sit here today, they were supposed to do certain things, none of which have been done that I know of. So I think I think that it's null and void as far as I'm concerned. And if it's not, I'm going to find out how to make it null and void. And if it's not, I still can, even with the agreement, I can still fight. In fact, it might give me some freedoms I wouldn't have without the agreement, the way I understand it, but I don't know.
Well, once you talk, have an opportunity to get more clarity, please keep us informed. We're all following Ellen's case so closely, and we're hoping justice can be served for her. She didn't put those 20 knife wounds in herself.
No, she didn't. Or any of the other wounds on her body that day.
The bruising, all of the bruising, that wasn't caused by Ellen. I mean, it's on her wrist, it's on her arms, it's on her legs, her knees.
The basic thing here is there was a murderer and a female abuser loose somewhere in Philadelphia or the Northeast, right?
Yep. And they remain free. Well, thank you, Doctor. And thank you so much, Sandra, for joining us here and for bringing some light. I learned a lot tonight, and I remain hopeful that justice will be served.
Me too.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Be well.
You too. Guys, we were so lucky to have the Greenbergs join us. Wow, there were some things I just wasn't aware of. And I really am so grateful for them for pushing through with this. I think it is just so critically important for other domestic violence and abuse victims that this case continue to move forward. I also think that another big picture with this is the medical examiners in these cases being treated like God. You know, whatever they say goes, and they're not called into enough scrutiny. Thank you for the Greenbergs for finally putting a fire under this point and pointing out that this medical examiner made an erroneous finding of suicide when it wasn't based on medical information. It was based on erroneous information from the police and something he believed in terms of there being a witness when Sam found her. It's amazing to me that that could have been changed. But then again, everything in this case is so very wrong. I want to thank each of you for being here, for supporting the Greenbergs in their fight for justice. We got to just keep pressing forward. Use your platforms, say her name, show that diagram that anyone, nobody could possibly believe that's a suicide when they look at these facts. And I just thank you all for being here, spending your Friday evening with us, and special thank you to the Greenbergs. Until next time, may justice be served.